You're listening to Taste for Truth Weight Loss Encouragement. I'm your host, Barb Raveling. Hey everyone, and welcome to the podcast. It's so good to have all of you here. And I realize I might not have everyone here today because I'm guessing a lot of people don't struggle with boredom eating. Of course, we've all heard people who say, I'm never bored, or as my husband says, boredom is a choice. But I have to tell you guys that I am a person who is often bored. And for those of us who get bored, boredom eating is a struggle because it's so easy just to go open up the refrigerator or the freezer or the cupboard and find something fun and exciting to eat, because that's an easy little way to conquer boredom. But unfortunately, it only lasts for a small amount of time and we always regret it later. So today I want to look at how to stop boredom eating. And we'll begin by looking at why we're bored in the first place, because here's the thing, not everybody gets bored, right? So I want to start with 10 reasons why we get bored, and then I'll give you 10 strategies for ending boredom, which will end boredom eating. Okay, so let's start. Here's reason number 1 about why we're bored. And this is one that actually a lot of people might struggle with, and that is we like being busy and get bored when we're not. So even people who really don't struggle too much with boredom eating, if they're people who like to accomplish things, they like their work day at night, often they'll find themselves bored because they're so used to being busy, and then they'll eat either on weekends or at night. Okay, number 2, we're fun-loving people who crave excitement. That's me, right? When I think of my friends who aren't bored, though, they usually fall into 3 camps, I've noticed. Either they like accomplishment, they like stability, or they love hobbies. And when you think about it, all 3 of those types of people can be satisfied in everyday life. So the ones who love accomplishment, you can always find something to do, right? You can make a list, you can check it off because we all have daily work to do around the house or someplace, right? The ones who love stability, they don't really care if they have excitement, because excitement by its very nature is a bit unstable, right? And the ones who love hobbies can usually find a hobby or 2 to fill up their free time. So it's only people who crave excitement, people like me who don't necessarily love stability, don't have hobbies, don't necessarily love accomplishing things and checking things off the list. Well, we have a hard time meeting our excitement needs in regular life because, regular life by its very nature isn't all that exciting because it's regular life, okay? Third reason that we get bored is we're procrastinators, and the thought of all that horrible work we should be doing is making us feel bored. I don't know how many times I feel bored, and I find the reason is because I have a bunch of work I should be doing and I don't want to do it. And as soon as I do that work, all of a sudden I'm not bored anymore and I like regular life. So avoiding work makes us want to eat. Okay, number 4, our regular life doesn't fit our personalities. And this might be true for a lot of you guys. If I think, what is my dream job? My dream job is to be a counselor at a Christian backpacking camp, right? Unfortunately, that's not a possibility for me right now, not to mention the fact that most Christian youth camps aren't looking for a married woman my age to be their camp counselor. So we live in a culture that tells us to follow our passions and go for that dream job. But let's face it, the dream job isn't always practical, and it's not always what God wants us to be doing, right? So I had all those years of being a stay-at-home mom, and that wasn't filled with fun and excitement, but it was very rewarding. I think it was good for the kids. I enjoyed those kids, but sometimes the life that we're living, it doesn't necessarily fit our personalities. And this leads to the 5th reason for boredom. We have unrealistic expectations for life. So when we believe the hype that we need to be living our best life and our passion, well, then we start having unrealistic expectations for life. We might think life is all about being fun, having exciting, living our dream. We might think life has to be as exciting as that summer we spent at our favorite job. For me, being a backpacking camp counselor at a Christian camp. But there's no way the rest of our lives will be that fun on a consistent basis. So our unrealistic expectations for life make us feel bored because we're focusing on what we don't have rather than on what we do have. Okay, the 6th reason for being bored is we expect ourselves to work too much without reward. So when I was working full time before I had kids, I rarely got bored. And this was because my days were filled with work. And since I worked at a bank, my days were also filled with people. So I enjoyed that work. I enjoyed all the visiting. I enjoyed the coworkers and the clients. So work in and of itself was reward. But when I started working at home, first as a stay-at-home mom, then a homeschool mom, and finally as a writer, I often got bored and still often get bored. So I'm beginning to realize that one of the reasons I get bored is because I'm doing a job that doesn't energize me without taking enough reward breaks. So that's a recipe for continued boredom, not to mention procrastination. And that leads us to the next reason for boredom, and that is we don't manage our work well. So for those of us who spend the majority of our days at home, one of our biggest problems is that we have too much time on our hands. And that doesn't mean we don't have a lot to do. It just means we have to manage our time ourselves. And that can lead to long blocks of time with nothing to do because either we don't have that much to do or we're procrastinating. And those long blocks of time can lead to boredom. Okay, it could be that we don't have enough on our plate. And that's the 8th reason for being bored. Okay, so if we don't have enough to do during the day, so let's say you're retired or you're at home and you don't have enough work, you're definitely going to be bored. I'd go bored crazy if I wasn't writing and doing all these other things because I guess I do like to be busy. I'm a person who does like to be occupied. A lot of people reported boredom during the pandemic because they were out of work and weren't used to being out of work. So anyway, you might be in a season of life where you don't have it all filled up. Maybe you just retired. Maybe your kids just left home. And so that leaves you with some boredom on your hands. Okay, number 9, we've trained ourselves to need constant excitement. Educators say it's hard to teach kids today because kids have been trained to expect constant excitement through playing video games, watching TV, and doing other forms of electronic entertainment. Well, kids aren't the only ones with this struggle. We also struggle because we have the same temptation to constantly jump on our phones whenever we're bored. Okay, and the 10th reason for being bored is we're making life about having fun and excitement and not about God. So whenever we try and fill ourselves up with something other than God, whenever we say, I have to have this fun and exciting life to be happy, we never get enough to satisfy us. So we'll talk more about that when we talk about the solutions, but that is definitely a reason for living in boredom. If we have the wrong focus in life and we're creating an idol out of fun and excitement. Okay, so we're going to take a look at 10 strategies for how to stop boredom eating in a minute by learning not to be bored. But before we do that, let's look at 3 practical tips to stop boredom eating. And the first is to either hide or remove exciting foods from our house. Because let's face it, more often than not, if it's there to eat, we'll eat it. To solve that problem, try not to have exciting foods in the house. Or if you can't do that, ask someone in your house to hide the foods from you. Okay, the second tip is to make it harder to buy exciting foods when you're out in the town. Okay, so if you have a tendency to stop and get exciting food when you're out driving, find a way to make it harder to get that food. You could change your driving routes. You're not going by that favorite food place. You could put your wallet in the far corner of the back seat so you can't reach it when you go through the drive-through. Or you could do something like renew your mind before you make that drive so that you don't feel like eating those exciting treats. If you're within walking distance of exciting treats like I am, consider leaving your billfold at home so you won't be tempted to get them. That's actually what I do. Okay, another tip, the third tip is eliminate exciting foods from your diet. And you might say, that's crazy. That's a recipe for boredom. But sometimes it's easier to have none than one. So at different phases of my life, I've given up sugar. Was my life boring in the food department? Yes, of course it was. But did it help me give up boredom eating? Again, yes. This is a drastic move, but it can actually make life better if you're constantly craving sweets or chips or something like that, and then giving in to your cravings whenever you're bored. Okay, so now we have those practical tips out of the way. Let's look at the bigger pictures. And in some ways, this bigger picture is about how to stop boredom itself. Because if we learn how to stop being bored, we'll learn how to stop boredom eating. Okay, so these are 10 strategies to learn how to stop being bored. And these strategies, I've written all these down at my website in the show notes that go with this episode, so you can look back at it later if you'd like. Okay, number 1, let go of unrealistic expectations for this phase of your life. So while we might expect life to be constantly exciting, if we're backpacking counselors at a Christian camp, we can't expect life to be constantly exciting with most stages of life. So just take a minute and think about your current phase of life. On a scale of 1 to 10, how exciting should you expect your days to be? So stop the podcast and ask yourself that question. Okay, I did that too. And I think I would expect my life to be at about a 3 on a scale of 1 to 10 as far as exciting life. Okay, based on your answer, give up your unrealistic expectations and then move on to the next step. And another thing I was thinking just as I said that is that you might have different expectations during the week than on the weekends. So on the weekends right now with our current lifestyle, it's more like a 9 maybe. We have pretty fun weekends, but during the week it's a 3. So I have to recognize, work time is different than playtime. And you can also ask yourself, how exciting should I expect my evenings to be? So when we have realistic expectations, that will help us not be bored. Okay, number 2 is embrace regular life. Okay, think of it this way. What if you lived in a war-torn country and all of a sudden the war stopped? Life wasn't fun and exciting, but at least there wouldn't be a war going on. Would you be thankful for regular life, or would you be craving excitement? I think we'd all be thankful for regular life. So the more we can embrace life as is and tell ourselves, hey, this is regular life, this is great, the less bored we'll be. So in a way, giving up boredom is also about learning to be content, walking around your house or your apartment and just say, you know what? This is regular life. I have food, I have clothes, I'm warm. God has incredibly blessed me. Which leads into our next step, make life about God. I remember years ago complaining to a friend about how boring my life was. My friend said, Barb, what is excitement from a biblical perspective? Okay, well, that really opened up my eyes because my life was exciting from a biblical perspective. I was close to God. I was writing books that were helping people break strongholds, and God was breaking strongholds in my life. That was all exciting. If you think of your life, anytime you have a chance to serve others, to love others well, to use your gift to help the church or the church at large grow, that is exciting. And so the more we make life about God, and it's not just serving, but our relationship with God. So it's so interesting because in the morning, I love my times with God, and I love renewing times during the day with God. But for some reason, I still think, oh no, you have to have something exciting some other time, even though for me, time with God really is kind of exciting. So no matter what stage of life you're at, no matter what stage of your relationship with God you're at, work on making life about God. Take one more step to make life about God, loving Him the most and being content with Him. Okay, number 4, learn how to manage your work or day-to-day life. Okay, especially if you spend your days at home, you need to learn how to manage your work and time well. And this has been a constant, ongoing struggle for me. And a lot of times we're good at managing in the morning, but we're not as good in the afternoon. So whatever time you're not good at, work on that. And I talk about this in my book, Freedom from Procrastination. That is both a Bible study and a workbook. So that will be a helpful resource if you want to try that out. This is something I'm learning more about as I go along, and it's something each of us has to work on depending on our stage of life. It will be different for me. That will be somebody who's listening to this who has little kids at home, or who's older than I and can't do as much physically as I can. So this is just going to be different for each of us. Okay, the 5th step is to work on overcoming procrastination, because the less we procrastinate, the less time we'll spend being bored. I kind of had a revelation, with our travel physical therapy life, where, I don't really have a community. I thought, I can't be happy. I don't have a community. And what I realized is most of my depression was coming from procrastinating work or feeling like I had to be working all day, more so than not having people around. So overcoming procrastination, I don't think we realize how huge that can be for working on overcoming boredom. And I know you might be thinking, Barb, you wrote a book on procrastination. Aren't you over it yet? And I will say, no, not quite over it yet, but I've made huge strides from the past. But when you start at 0, even when you make huge strides, you might only be at a 7 and have more work to go. Anyway, that's another one. My Bible say freeing from procrastination can help you. I actually use it myself still. Okay, number 6. Plan rewards for work or find ways to make work fun. And this is really important if you're a person who's motivated by fun and excitement rather than by accomplishment. So see if there's a way to make it fun, turn on fun music. I remember my son used to make up games when he was loading the dishwasher. He'd make up stories in his mind about loading the dishwasher. I can't remember how that went, but I thought it was a very creative way to make work fun. Or plan little rewards. Like as soon as if you work 2 hours this morning, you get to, read for a half an hour or something like that. Just make sure rewards are non-addictive, so you can get back to doing more after that. Okay. Number 7, get more on your plate. Okay. So sometimes overcoming procrastination means we need to eliminate things because being so overwhelmed, having too many things on our plate, that's what's making us procrastinate because we're just frozen because we know we can't do anything. But other times, we just don't have enough on our plate. So you might be a stage of your life where you don't have enough responsibilities. So God never meant for us to spend our days watching Netflix all day. And I know you probably aren't doing that. I didn't even know if I should say that because maybe it sounds kind of rude, but I think it's true. We need to find ways to serve others. We need to find ways to love others well. The more we focus on others and serving others, the less we focus on ourselves and how bored we are. And I'm speaking to myself as I speak to others. I have enough on my plate, but I still need to learn to focus on serving and loving others more rather than me having this fun life. Okay, number 8, find non-addictive ways to fit excitement into your day. Okay. Just, we make life about God, we do good work, we serve others, but that doesn't mean we can't add excitement to our life. There's nothing wrong with trying to make your life exciting as long as God would approve of the type of excitement we're adding to our lives, right? So if you're in a season of life where you don't naturally have a lot of fun and excitement, try to plan for it. So here's one thing I do. I plan coaching calls, podcast interviews, or appointments throughout the week so that each day I try and have one of those because I'm energized by people. And then I also talk to my friends or family members by phone each day or get out on a walk and I say hi to people in the past. So these are all non-addictive ways I can add fun and excitement to my life. And of course, you might be different than me. Maybe you're not energized by people. So you'll have to ask what energizes me and try to add some of that to your life each day if possible. Okay, number 9 is put limits on your phone, on Netflix, or on other entertainment sources. And you might think, well, that's crazy because those are all the things that make my life fun and exciting. And then you're telling me to limit them. But here's what I found with actually both food and entertainment. When I'm stuffing them with those things, what it creates is a craving for more and more and more. And I enjoy them much better if I limit them and have them be more like treats rather than constant, you always get them. So think about doing that and see if it makes a difference. I haven't read any studies of that or anything, but it sure seems like it works that way in my life and it makes sense to me. Okay, the last tip or the last strategy is to make a plan for downtime. So if you regularly experience boredom in the evenings and late afternoons or on weekends, make an actual schedule for how you spend your day during those periods. So it could be a schedule with time slots, like from 7 to 8. I'll play a board game with the kids from 8 to 8:30. I'll, get the kids ready for bed from 8:30 to 9. I'll read this book. So, actual schedule, or it could just be an order of events that you always do in the evening or whatever time you're bored. So it could be, okay, I always do dishes, then I fold clothes, then I go on a walk, then I renew my mind, then I read, etc. And I notice a lot of people that I coach, they feel like they always have to be working in the evenings. And I that would be another good thing to look at because I never feel like I need to work in the evenings. Of course, if you're working all day and you have kids too, you might not be able to say, no, I don't work in the evening, but maybe you could. Maybe you could get all your things done in the weekend or, before you go to work, or delegate more to your kids or share the work, with your spouse. So see if you can, make those evenings rejuvenating and relaxing, especially if you're a person who works outside the home. And if you're a person who spent all day at home, and so that's even more time to fill in the evening, then it becomes even more important if your evening eating is that boredom eating, to make a plan for the downtime. Okay, well, I hope all of these little tips were helpful. Remember, you can go to my website and look at them if you want. I do also have a couple renewing exercises for boredom in my new book, Say Goodbye to Emotional Eating, that you can use if you have that book, or on the free I Deserve a Donut app. I have some boredom questions, I believe. So you could use those to renew your mind. I probably have boredom tips in that too, on that app or in the book. Okay, well, I hope you guys have a great day. I hope that you find some good ways to conquer boredom, and I'll be working on it over here too, on, just learning to enjoy regular life, enjoy God, and just be content with life as is, while still working to, make the best possible life we can within the context of what God doesn't want us to change or what we can't change. And so I'll be thinking of you, doing that with me as we go through this life together and learn to be content. Help you guys have a good week following God and following your boundaries. And I will talk to you next time.